Hey, it's Birdman, and this is a special edition, Your Vote Matters 2018, hanging out here in the Birdman Media Studios. And today with me, I have a gentleman who's running for Justice of the Peace. I have Joseph, you go by Joe, Clark.
That's right.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So tell me a little bit about the position you're running for, what it encompasses, area, and who would vote for you, and then we'll get into your...
Sure. So it's Justice of the Peace. It's Precinct 5, sometimes just known as the Show Low Justice of the Peace. It covers White Mountain Lakes, obviously Show Low, Linden, Clay Springs, Pinedale, and that's the area that it covers.
Okay. And the Justice of the Peace, the actual job, what is it? What does it? The Justice
Sure.
of the
Well,
Peace
the Justice of the Peace, well, it depends. I mean, it is whatever the holder of the office wants it to be, really. I mean, it does have some statutory requirements, and really what they cover is all the misdemeanors that happen within the precinct, and then they do felony preliminary hearings, orders of protection, civil traffic violations, any civil matters with damages under $10,000. So those are the statutory requirements of the Justice of the Peace. But then, Justice of the Peace can go over and beyond if he wants to as well.
Okay. Now, is the position, would it equate to being a police officer or a judge?
It's a judge.
Okay.
All the Justice of the Peace go by Judge, whatever. It's
Okay.
Judge Price. He holds the position now. Judge Widmeyer is the Justice of the Peace in Pine Top. And so, the title is the title of a judge. And that's really shortened from Justice of the Peace. And so that's what they are. They're judges.
Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about yourself, your
Okay.
background, like where you grew up, and then what your background is that you think applies to the position.
Sure. Well, I think my entire background applies. You don't ever lose anything that you've learned throughout your life. But I was born in Safford. Shortly after I was born, my dad joined the Army, and so the first 5 years of my life, we lived in 4 different places. Ended up in Germany for a couple of years, and then went back to Safford. My dad was working for the Department of Corrections, ended up being transferred to Tucson. So we moved there the summer before my 3rd grade year and ended up graduating from high school in Tucson. I worked for a year after high school doing construction work. Then I served a mission for my church. I went to Scotland. When I came back, I decided I wanted to do more, and I went to college. I did a year and a half of college. Then I joined the Marine Corps. And I spent 4 years at Quantico, Virginia. I was there on September 11th, 2001, when those planes flew into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. My world changed, like everyone's did, especially in the military. I got out of the Marine Corps wanting to go to law school, so I finished my undergraduate degree in Virginia. I went to Penn State for law school. And I've been with the county attorney's office since June 1st of 2009. And it's been a great ride there, and I've never wanted to leave.
So you're with the county attorney's office, got to let people know that whenever you decide to run, you have to actually step away from working. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. So right now I'm on a leave of absence until the election. I've gained a new appreciation for what it means to stay at home. My kids are home for summer break too. And so I appreciate what my wife has done all these years. She mostly stays at home. She is a marriage and family therapist, but she only works part-time for the hospital as a social worker now. But yeah, I'm not working right now, and I get to campaign full-time.
Okay. So tell me this, and to the viewers out there as well, why run, and what do you believe that you bring to the office?
Right. That's a question I get a lot. I was asked recently, you're in a position now where you get to make a difference. You get to affect people's lives, and that's all very true. Really, I've spent 9 years observing what happens in the justice courts, and there's nothing really wrong that happens there. There's nothing corrupt or anything like that. But I've spent these 9 years thinking about ways that the justice of the peace can do more to serve his community. It can do more to affect the way that crimes are handled, affect the way that the police are able to interact with the justice of the peace. And now that Judge Price is retiring, I figured it's time to put my money where my mouth is, quite literally. And I just know that I can make a difference, truly make a difference. Because I realize in order to make a difference, you really have to be different. And so I bring something to the table that just isn't there yet. I've spent all this time in the justice courts. It's been my full-time job prosecuting. I've specifically handled and specialized in domestic violence. I've spent time as a resource prosecutor for a state resource. I had a grant, and so I would get calls from all over the state. I would teach classes for law enforcement, for prosecutors, and then we would teach about DUIs, driving under the influence, all those laws. And so I have all these resources at my disposal. I've used them, and now I just want to put it in effect for my entire community full time.
Very good. Now, you talked about domestic violence, and,
Mm-hmm.
and we know domestic violence is a mounting issue, especially even here on the mountain. What do you think in that position of the justice of the peace? What kind of impact could you have? And even maybe it's just from the position of notoriety, the fact that you would be someone that people would listen to. What do you think we can do to address and start to reduce some of the domestic violence?
Well, actually, that's really an easy question, because when I was handling the Show Low Justice Court, I created a domestic violence court, and we had this program where it was a program by which I tried to get buy-in from victims. We had the White Mountain Safe House involved, and I'm so happy that they're reopening. We had buy-in from the probation department. White Mountain Counseling was our provider for counseling services. And, so I've created this court, and it was effective. And when I got reassigned in my position, and I was handling a full-time felony caseload, the new prosecutor just didn't keep it going. And so I know very much that I can make a difference in the way of domestic violence is handled. We saw a reduction in our recidivism. We saw an increase in our perpetrators actually doing their counseling. We had an increase in community service. It was an effective program that I was able to work with Judge Price on, and I really want to bring that back, and I can do that. And I know I won't. We actually had a bit of a budget at the time. We wouldn't have a budget now. We lost that budget towards the end of my tenure as a full-time misdemeanor prosecutor, but I kept it going. And then when I got reassigned, obviously it went away, and I want to bring it back, and I can bring it back, and I have a plan to do that.
Very good. Anything else that maybe I haven't asked or that you would want to bring to light for people if they're considering you with their vote?
Sure. So the one thing people really need to understand is that there's so much more that we can get out of our justice courts. And all that needs to happen is that the justices of the peace need to be more emotionally involved, more time involved. I was talking to a not so recent justice of the peace, and he just kept telling me what a great gig it is to be a justice of the peace. He said, you can get that job done in 2.5 days. You can be at home. If something comes up, they can just call you. And I found that offensive. And what I represent is something more. You can expect more. You'll get more. You'll see. I really believe that there'll be a proactive approach to our misdemeanor crimes, especially in regard to shoplifting. Shoplifting is the most common crime in the area. The Walmart was just recently brought into the Show Low Justice Court, and so that justice of the peace is going to have to deal with a lot of shoplifting, chronic shoplifting, and well over half of those shopliftings are some form of alcohol.
Right.
And so you're dealing with drug, alcohol use, and what was really, so I actually created another problem-solving court, and that's our Veterans Court. And in my training, both with my domestic violence stuff and with my veterans stuff, the thing that has been most effective that they have found is time in front of a judge, accountability to a judge they're going to come in, they're going to report what their week or their month has been like, and they're going to want to stay clean because they're going to have to come and talk to that judge. And no other justice of the peace in the county is doing anything like that. They have all this extra time, and how are they going to use that time? Well, I want to use that time having the people who are convicted of shoplifting, convicted of domestic violence crimes, come in front of me and be accountable to me so that we can be more proactive, keep them from going back and shoplifting. I sent a guy to prison one time for 5 years for stuffing a pickle down his pants at a grocery store. You know, he was shoplifting, but he wouldn't stop shoplifting. And I just kept feeling like if we had an effective program at the justice court level that would have kept him from committing that third shoplifting, which becomes a felony, right? If we could have stopped it at the justice court level, that's what I want to do. I want to stop these lives of crime. I want to stop it at the justice court level. And I have a plan to do it, and I think I'm the only one who does.
Very good. So once again, it's Joe Clark, running for Justice of the Peace for
Precinct 5.
Precinct 5, sorry.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it for this episode. Appreciate everyone joining on and viewing. If you have any questions, you can post them up, and he'll be monitoring it on his own page as well, that he could give you the answers you need. I'm Birdman. This is Your Vote 2018. See you soon.